Greetings, everyone. This is Rock and Roll Spot Country with the weekly comic book roundup. We're finishing up with this week's DC titles, having already covered this week's Marvel books and this week's, well, the new issue of Magic the Gathering from Boom Studios. So, kicking things off, we've got Batman Urban Legends number 3. And let's take a moment to soak in that cover, shall we? That is an amazing cover. I honestly thought, for a second when I was looking at it, I thought it was by Brian Boland, but it is actually by David Marquez and Tomeo Mori. So, as per usual, we've got 3 stories. We've got Red Hood and Batman and Cheer, Part 3. Lady Shiva and Death Wish. The Outsiders and the Caretaker, Part 3 of 3. And Gripper in the Long Con, Part 3 of 5. So where we left off in Cheer, Batman, having discovered that Red Hood had killed in Gotham, and going against what Batman said, if you're going to operate in Gotham, no killing. Batman found Red Hood. They got into a fight, and the young boy that Red Hood had taken in, burst in to stop the fight. He identifies himself as being Blue. He tells Batman he's Blue Hood, and turns out that in his pocket, Batman keeps lollipops, which are effective for distracting children in emergency scenes. But Batman wonders what's going on. And Red Hood explains, that kid is, he's the son of the guy I killed. And he justifies his actions, and, there's a good chance that the kid's going to be an orphan just like them. And Batman points out that, kid needs help. And Jason agrees. And even admits he messed up. But he doesn't want Tyler, the young boy, in the system like he was. Explaining that Alfred, or Batman would never understand. He had, he always had Alfred and money, but Batman, says, yeah, you're right, but Tyler can't stay here. He'll also make sure that Tyler's mom has the best care possible. But they take Tyler to Leslie Tompkins. We find out something else kept in Batman's utility belt is a dog whistle. But Tyler is left in the care of Leslie Tompkins, and Batman and Red Hood work on figuring out, okay, where's the true source of the teardrops. We get a flashback to Jason's time as Robin. They then talk to a former associate of Scarecrow's, as teardrops have a similar chemical formula to fear toxin. Basically, the person they talked to created the first version of fear toxin, and upon realizing what Crane was doing, destroyed her notes. And she's not happy, but she realizes she messed up in helping Crane all those years ago, but Batman gives her some samples of teardrops, kind of a, hey, could you look into these? We're trying to figure out where they came from and stop them. And here's a phone so you can contact an associate of mine named Oracle. Also, since Jason did kind of threaten the woman a bit, Batman adds, this is not Oracle. But Jason and Batman have an argument, and Jason goes off on his own to take the care of things his way. And we get more of Jason go in the flashback. Jason goes after a criminal, a known criminal, but Batman basically says that you can't just go. You can't just because someone looks suspicious doesn't mean that you have to go and beat them up. You have to make sure. But Jason's trying to do things his way and kind of sort of trying to be a detective, but he does get some intel, follows it, and walks into a trap set up by Mr. Freeze, which is where this chapter of the story ends. Which brings us to our next story, Death Wish, featuring Lady Shiva. Because with a flashback to Lady Shiva's childhood, her mother making her and her sister pork belly. Shiva gets some pork belly and breaks into the garage, offering Batman food. They, of course, they get into a fight. And turns out that Shiva was there to die. But Batman stitches her up and takes her to go see her daughter, Cassandra, orphan, who is playing mini golf with Duke Thomas and Steffi Brown. Apparently it's a weekly ritual for them on Sundays. It's her self-care day. And Shiva realizes that, her daughter's happy. And she deserves to be happy. And Batman explains that, it took him letting all of them go to realize that he was bringing together a group of people who could be a community with or without him. But that's where the story ends. Which brings us to Caretaker Part 3, featuring the Outsiders. Where we left off, Katana's mother-in-law had kidnapped her because the soul of her late husband, is no longer in Soul Taker. And it seems that she's grown close to her Outsiders teammate, Black Lightning. We begin with a brief training sequence between Black Lightning and Katana, basically showing how it is that Black Lightning is able to take on hordes of, is able to fight a martial artist, while Metamorpho has split himself into many different copies to take on the army of martial artists. But Katana and her mother-in-law continue to talk, and she does explain that she and Black Lightning are very close friends. That's all. But they they break in the doors to rescue Katana, and basically, she's free. She's just been freed. And Katana's been given 1 year to return Maseo to Soul Taker. As they're leaving, Metamorpho states that the both of them owe him a nice quiet meal. And so they go to a small restaurant, table for 3 with an extra chair. And they start to talk about expanding the Outsiders to more than just the 3 of them. Bringing up possibilities. Duke Thomas. And then there's the potential 5th member they're thinking of. but we don't find out who that is. In fact, apparently this story's all been a teaser for an upcoming Outsiders title beginning this fall. I may or may not be picking that title up. We'll see. Which brings us to The Long Con, Part 3, featuring Grifter. Starts off in 6 months previously in Star City. Grifter is recruited by Halo and for a job offer. Basically, looking to, he's supposed to take a job as bodyguard for Lucius Fox. In the present, well, Cole slept with his boss, not Lucius, but the head of security for Wayne Enterprises. The laptop is, and he steals her laptop to give to one of his associates. And of course, his boss is called in a cab. At Wayne Industries, he has lunch with Lucius. When Bruce Wayne shows up, wanting to talk to Cole. And Bruce tells Cole that he's heard great things about his work. And Cole just figures, oh well, Lucius is too kind, but Bruce adds it wasn't Lucius; it was a man named John Lynch. Though Cole claims to not know who that is. That night, Cole's waiting to meet someone, and he's basically been stood up for his meeting. Gives a local homeless man wad of cash and his nachos, and heads out, only to be attacked by some of Black Mask's henchmen. In the middle of the fight against Black Mask's henchmen, an odd assist occurs from Batman. And so Batman and Grifter will fight back to back, though Batman does disable Cole's guns. When the fight's over, Cole is teleported out, but not in a manner that Batman notices until he turns and sees that Cole's gone. He's at Wayne Enterprises. He's used a stolen ID badge to get into a computer terminal, but the terminal he needs to get into is further encrypted. And while his associate is trying to crack it, it's not working. However, Bruce and Lucy are on their way up. So Grifter climbs out of a window and hangs off the edge of the building until they're gone. And that is where the story ends. As has been every other issue of this book so far, it was solid. All the stories were good. I've yet to encounter a bad story in Urban Legends yet. It's honestly one of the books I look forward to the most every month. Anyway, moving on, we've got Batman the Detective, number 2. Where we left off, Batman had gone to England to investigate a plane crash where he'd been called out by name. But it turns out all the passengers aboard the plane were people that had been saved by Batman. And there's a group targeting those saved by Batman. Basically kind of the idea being that these people were supposed to die, but Batman saved them, therefore they should be dead. But he's working with Squire as Knight is recuperating. But Batman questions one of the members of the group that was responsible for the plane crash, and he saves him from dying from a fall. Gets a little bit of background on the new Squire. They go to visit Knight in the hospital. And else turns out the tracker put on the member of the group is tracked him to Paris. It has tracked him. The tracker is found. Their headquarters is scrubbed. And since the member of the group was saved by Batman, well, it's deemed that he shouldn't exist. But turns out that while on his way to Paris, Batman runs into an old frenemy, Henri Ducard. They talk. Ducard suggests they team up. And but Batman refuses. Batman would prefer not to work with a killer. But Ducard says, look him up in Paris. Bruce will know how to find him. So Bruce discovers that the member of the group had been killed. They've scrubbed their headquarters and moved on. Turns out that Ducard stole Bruce Wayne's credit card and put a expensive penthouse on. Stayed in an expensive penthouse on it. Makes him easier to find. But his first visitor is not Batman, but rather those trying to kill those that Batman has saved. And yes, they're there for Ducard, who was saved by Batman. Ducard does put up quite the fight, seemingly get at least injures some of them, but is thrown off a building and shot. But Batman potentially saves him. Yeah, it does appear that he saves him, and the surviving members of the group escape. That is where the issue ends. It's a lot of setup. This group is trying. We know the villain group's goal. We just don't know who exactly they are. Only that they dress like white. Basically, they take Batman's costume and turn it white. And one of them is definitely meta. And they have, at least a degree of, and they've got some connections as Ducard is tracked through Interpol. Anyway, it's a solid book so far. Should be interesting to see how it ends. Which brings us to our next book, Future State Gotham, #1. That's right. Future State never fully ended. So Future State is a black and white title largely focusing on Red Hood as well as other members of the Bat family. But we open with Red Hood fighting Mecha Ventriloquist, takes down Wesker. As the Peacekeepers show up. Peacekeepers aren't happy that Red Hood took them down. He explains, hey, I live in this neighborhood, okay? And there's but while he and Peacekeeper 3 are talking, there's a massive explosion. Him and Peacekeeper 3 manage to get out of its path, but only just. Turns out someone set up a massive explosion underneath Gotham in the form of a bat symbol. But the Peacekeepers, the magistrate vows that yes, the new Batman will be brought down. Red Hood goes to meet with his contact, presumably within the Resistance, asking for some answers because he realizes that the new Batman is being set up, but he gets none. But sadly, he gets none. However, he infiltrates the ranks of the Peacekeepers as Peacekeeper Red on a probationary, based on a probationary status as a Peacekeeper at the moment. But he does come. Ends up running into, of course, the Resistance, led by Nightwing. Nightwing is not happy at all to see Red Hood, claiming that the meeting that the Resistance is having is a family meeting. We're doing a backup story featuring Batman, the Third Mask. An odd crime occurs. Batman investigates with Gordon. The perpetrator of said crime is able to is at least on something that allows him to grow in size and strength. But Batman remembers something later, or Bruce remembers something later, goes after the guy, goes to stop him, and when the guy said, calls him Batman, somebody says, "I'm not Batman." And that is where the story ends. Which brings us to our next book of the week. Another alternate universe title of sort. Another potential alternate universe title. Justice League Last Ride, #1. It's the not too distant future. The League, however, is broken up. And they're trying to, keep the world in one piece separately rather than together. Over the course of the issue, we learn that while Superman's doing plenty of work, doing plenty to save the world on his own, he can't be everywhere. But we find out over the course of things that what brought everything to it. What caused the League to break up was the death of Martian Manhunter. However, the League is called together. And so Superman, Wonder Woman, Flash, and eventually Batman arrive. They've been called by Jon Stewart. And they're there they're entering the docking bay. John, Kilowog, Jessica Cruz, and a prisoner. The last Zarnian, the main man, Lobo. They want the Justice League to protect him. If he's been captured, his enemies will come for him. Hal eventually shows up. And explains that they kind of want to turn the moon. They're hoping to turn the moon into New Oa, but they want to prove to the United Planets that that would work out. At first, Batman's against it, and he heads back to Gotham. Superman shows up, however, while Batman is dealing with Mr. Freeze, and actually, in fact, saves Batman. And Bruce tells Clark to meet him in an hour in the cave. They get into a bit of an argument, and Superman lashes out, punching the giant penny into the wall of the cave. They blame each other for Martian Manhunter's death, apparently. But Superman asks, for Batman to help them. And Batman says that Hal was right. that he knows the best place to hide Lobo. But to do it, they need to go back to Apocalypse, and that is where the issue ends. Which brings us to our 2 Black Label books for the week. Starting off with Rorscach book. What issue number are we? 8? I think. Yeah. Rorscach, number 8. Where we left off, our investigative protagonist had come upon a potential co-conspirator of Myerson and the Kid. Former writer, a retired writer artist named Frank Miller. Yes, that Frank Miller. Only he's dressed as Rorschach. So, over the course of the issue, the investigator interviews 3 different people. Samuel Fader, a managing partner at Covington and Hogue, works in estates largely, has represented Myerson for 30 years or so. Then Jamie Knowles, psychiatrist, the son of Myerson's original therapist, but after Knowles' father passed, Myerson decided to stay with the practice. And finally, Daniel Shapiro, son of a guy that knew Myerson, did chores for him. Each of them were summoned to a location at separate points, to a ranch, basically, in New Mexico. Fader to work with Myerson on his will, Knowles for purposes of therapy, and Shapiro to help build something. What Shapiro's building, or what Shapiro's tasked to build, is a replica of the stage and also a tower at the height they would need, at the right height, to basically recreate, or so they could practice for their assassination of Senator Turley. Turns out that a lot of Myerson's meetings with his lawyer and his therapist were done wearing the mask. It was all things that everybody thought just, a little weird, but, nothing too bad. It seems each one was potentially put under hypnosis, but yeah. The investigator manages to pull them out of it, often by smacking them around. But it's kind of stuff where it seems odd, but not, necessary to be reported. So, until the assassination attempt. Miller was arrested, and apparently the arrest was very much like Rorschach's arrest in the original Watchmen. But all 3 of the former associates of Myerson are roughed up a bit by the investigator, trying to find out what the hell is going on. As things get a little more violent, you get 3 panels with starting with Fader saying, "Oh," then Knowles saying, "It is you," and Shapiro finally adding, "I've been waiting for you." But, yeah. Things are not going well for the investigation. And that is where the issue ends. Which brings us to our final book of the week. American Vampire 1976, number 8. So where we left off in issue 6, as issue 7 was kind of it's a little different. Not really, not full, more of a flashback issue of it, if anything, with nothing in the present of the title. Jim Book had betrayed our heroes, and it seemed all was lost. So the issue begins with, oh God, what is his friggin' name? Skinner and Pearl on the floating on the skull of a giant in the Antarctic. With Skinner explaining by narration that when he was young, he actually kind of looked forward to dying, not because of any boohoo BS. He looked forward to dying because of what was going to happen in those final moments. When he was a teenager, Jim told his brother Jim Book would always remind him, when you die, your life flashes before your eyes. So, before you get on your mischief today, you think about that. Think about what it is you want to see in those final moments. And he did. Thought about it all the time. Apparently it gave him a bit of a stiffy when he thought about what he'd see. The blood, the women, the daring escapes, more blood, the riches and gunfights. He couldn't wait to look back on it all. And when he became the first American vampire, he thought, what a twist. So, now you think about the lives he could have led. Whenever he has a brush of death, he doesn't see the life he had, he sees the ones he could have had. Could have been the greatest outlaw ever, or the Lord of Sin City, most feared gangster in the East, daredevil adventurer, maybe with Pearl, maybe without. Eventually they're picked up by an ally of the VMS, the Signal Man. But they've got a plan. However, they learn of a means of a place they can ride things out, but Pearl wants to actually fight the beast. Skinner, however, is like, that's the dumbest dumb idea in the history of dumb ideas. But it turns out that Travis injected himself with some of Dracula's blood to become the next Dracula. Meanwhile, Jim Book has taken Mimitet to the Beast to make her the host for the Beast. However, she's done something to her blood to where he can't take control of her. And so, Jim is to become the host of the Beast. Elsewhere, Agent Bixby is attacked by Felicia and interrogated. And she explains that they're very similar. She even thought about making similar deals to one that Bixby's made over the years. But she knew that once you do that, there's no coming back. Skinner's taken one of Signal Man's motorcycles, heading off to the bunker to lay low, still with the flower from the cave in his pocket. But the minions of the Beast begin to rise on July 4th. And Skinner goes into the bunker. That is where the issue ends. And that's me for this week's roundup. As always, feel free to like, share, and subscribe. Links to my Facebook, Twitter, Patreon, and PayPal account in the description box down below. Quick thoughts on Rorscach and American Vampire. Rorscach feels more and more like just kind of being dragged out. American Vampire, it's fun. It'll be interesting to see where it ends. Though the seventh issue did kind of, in my opinion, it kind of broke the momentum of the series. But yeah. Anyway, that's all for now. This is Rock and Roll Spock signing off, saying live long and rock hard.